Okay, so it's 7 o'clock. We're going to call the meeting to order. Thank you for coming. It's the fourth and final information meeting regarding the June 11th Australian ballot vote to allow Wyndham to be part of the West River Modified Union Education District. Please make sure that you sign in so that we can have an accurate record of who's here. And if you speak, make sure you identify yourself and your town for the viewing audience. So, any additions or corrections to the agenda, folks?
Yeah, I'd like to have a moment of silence for the D-Day holiday here in remembrance of those who...
In remembrance of the 75th anniversary of D-Day?
Yes.
Sure, I think that's fine. Okay. I'm sure we all appreciate the sacrifices made by those people that day. Okay, so this is a legally warned meeting. If there are members of the public that are here to speak to some issue other than the June 11th vote, now would be your time to bring that up. Anyone? Okay. Any correspondence at all, people? I got nothing. All right. We do have in front of you draft minutes from our last two meetings.
Not your last two. Two farthest away that have not been approved.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry, May 6th and May 20th.
Correct.
Those were just regular meetings. I skimmed them quick before and I didn't see anything terrible.
I think Crystal called you on the May 6 minutes with like if her name was spelled correctly.
Oh, yes, C-R-Y.
They're spelled correctly on the 20th, but not on the 6th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's an odd spelling, that's why I noticed.
Any other corrections, changes to the minutes, folks? Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Okay. Any discussion on the motion to approve the minutes of May 6th and May 20th? As corrected with the spelling of Crystal's name? All right. All in favor of approving the minutes of May 6th and May 20th, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Okay. That gets us through everything. That gets us through the little bit of business. As we have with all the other meetings, I would just open this to the public for questions or comments regarding the vote next Tuesday. If this is your first meeting, I would let you go first in the questions or comments rather than some of the people who've been here multiple times. So, anyone? Yes, sir.
Chris Robbins from Jamaica. Isn't this a little bit euphemistic? Aren't we compelling him to join if we vote yes?
Absolutely.
Yes. The language of the warning follows the language of the AOE's final memo. We took that exactly out of that when our attorney drafted the warning. And we weren't trying to change the language or do it. That was the language that was given us, and we just used it. But yes, it is against the will of the voters of Wyndham in a vote taken a couple years ago. Yeah.
My second question is, what happens if we vote yes, and what happens if we vote no?
Well, that's a really broad question. If we vote yes, Wyndham would become a full part of the West River Education District. They're already a member of this district with representation on the board for grades 7 through 12, and that would bring them in grades pre-K through 6. So this board would then be responsible for the education of all the students pre-K through 12 in Wyndham, as well as all the other towns that are part of this district. If no, is that enough, or do you want more detail? I'm not quite sure what you're looking for.
Well, what they're concerned about is having their school closed. So is that going to happen or not?
No, the articles of agreement that govern this district say for 5 years, no schools will close. No, for 5 years, no schools will close, right?
No, there's no date.
No date.
Well, no, they can't close for 5 years without a vote of for at all, and then for 5 years they can't close after that. It's a vote of the town.
No, they didn't put that part
That
in.
didn't go in.
No,
Oh.
there's nothing in
Can't
there
close
for
it.
school closing.
Forever, without a vote of the town.
Okay. I'm sorry, I haven't looked at the articles. So the articles state that Wyndham cannot be closed without a vote of the town of Wyndham to vote to close their school. So this board has no authority to close the school under the articles the way they're currently configured. It has been mentioned that the articles could be amended, but there's a process and all the towns would have to agree to that. And it's not something that we've done to change the powers of this board. The one amendment that we've made the towns came to us and said, we elect our board members from the floor rather than by Australian ballot, because in the articles, all the decisions of this district were made by Australian ballot. And we then put an amendment out to allow Jamaica and Townsend to elect directors from the floor and Brookline from the floor at their meetings rather than have an Australian ballot. So no, that doesn't close their school. If there's that was a yes vote. Okay, so and if there's a no vote, then things stay as they are for now, with the Wyndham Elementary School Board running the Willamette, being responsible for the education of the students in Wyndham pre-K through 6. They would continue to be a member of the West River Education District for grades 7 through 12. However, there is a vote warned for July where Wyndham is asking the other towns that comprise the old Leland and Gray district to allow them to leave that district as well, and then they would be out entirely, depending on the results of that vote. You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Donna Johnson from Townsend. What financial ramifications, if any, would affect the town of Townsend, either pro or con, by voting yes or no?
The addition of Wyndham for a yes vote would cause taxes in Townsend to go up by 1 cent for next year. Beyond that, it's crystal ball gazing. That's because we're just taking the budget that they have to run their school right now and adding it into our budget. A no vote would just keep tax rates where they are with the current West River education budget. So they would stay the same, and the yes vote would increase them by a penny. You're welcome. Yes, sir.
So William Johnson from Townsend. So when the vote is taken next Tuesday, will a majority vote of the entire district, of everybody voting, carry, or does that have to be by town?
Next Tuesday's vote is a commingled vote, majority of the entire district makes the decision, yes. Anybody else? Sure.
Could someone I don't know, Bill or someone read back the motion that was made and approved at the Wyndham Info meeting about the clarification in the newspaper? I'd like to hear the actual motion as it was.
Those minutes have not been.
Can somebody paraphrase it for me?
I think I can.
Ken,
Okay.
you made it, didn't you?
That the board write a letter to the reformer, basically reflecting the straw vote that was polled at the Wyndham Information meeting.
I don't know if Mike has anything to add.
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
Well, the reason, correct me if I'm wrong, but I read the letter this morning, and I have to say it was wordy, and a little bit weak in terms of clarification, if I might say. The simple statement of facts that I believe, were looking for was that Wyndham had not asked to be accepted by its original vote and all subsequent votes, including the straw poll, and that we wished not to be accepted in the WRED for K through 6, and that would have fixed the facts. Instead, we had this convoluted two paragraphs, and then at the very end, a reminder of the possible savings of 30 cents per 100 to the residents of Wyndham if the vote was yes. So that to me was, in my opinion, you keep saying you have no agenda. You don't have an agenda. That was an agenda. That is called, take that home and ruminate on that a little bit. Am I making up facts here?
No, I'm sorry you feel that way. I actually edited out sections that were in I just stuck the facts from the flyer that we'd agreed were true. I edited out the sections about for full-day pre-K, the lunch program. I edited those things out of there because I thought those things were actually, could be considered lobbying for. I was trying not to be lobbying for.
But you were supposed
stand
to
by
just
that.
be clarifying what was not clear in your bullet points. And instead, you did a meager job of that and then threw in the 30 cents per 100.
Which is not correct, by the way.
That's beside the point. It was
Otherwise, you guys would have a really good saving.
I did find the motion, because I went back to the video, and it just said, the motion was for Joe to write a letter to the reformer explaining that Wyndham is not in favor of this vote, period. That's what it was.
Yep, I think I did that.
But you went further.
And more.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Are all of you neutral on this? Or not?
No.
I mean, I don't understand the thing very well, honestly, but, Wyndham doesn't want to be in the Leland and Gray loop, I guess, and, but Act 46 wants them to be, is that basically what it is?
Yes.
And
Under the state's master plan, the Agency of Education recommended that Wyndham join this district, and allowed the legal voters of the rest of this district to make that decision
For them.
Essentially, yeah, for them.
Overturn a public vote.
That's how Act 46 works. There are other districts that have the same thing going on where they've warned a vote to accept a district that didn't necessarily want to be in, and that's just the way the law plays out. We didn't take a position as a board on whether Wyndham should be in or out. We did take a position that since that right was extended to our voters, that you had a right to speak. That's your decision. Do you want them in or out? You go ahead. We're trying to give just as much of the facts as we can as to what the implications of that vote are for either a yes or a no, and then everybody can make that decision for themselves in the voting booth, and after that's made, then we move forward with whatever.
Some of you then do have opinions, and are they both ways, or just?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely.
I would like to clarify, if I can, that Act 46, actually, all we were ever required to do under Act 46 was get under one board. Everything that's happened since then was not a requirement of Act 46, it was the board's discretion. So moving the 6th grade, even though it upset over 200 parents, that was the board's discretion. Warning this vote was the board's discretion, even if there was we had no legal obligation to warn this vote. So, some have said there should be a very high bar before you consider overturning a legal vote of another town. I'll leave it there.
Sure.
So just for an informational piece for this gentleman, I think it's only fair that he knows it's 200 plus parents who requested that they not have the sixth grade moved into the high school were denied an opportunity to have a vote, even though it would have only been
To be clear,
discretionary.
And again, back in this whole twisted truth thing, they were not 200 parents, okay?
200 people.
They were,
Voters.
and they weren't even voters.
198
So
certified voters.
let's not twist the truth. I know that we're working on that.
Maybe it's
Let's be realistic. The State Board of Education wrote this order. The State Board under Act 46 is the one that's pushing this merge. The State Board said that the voters could accept. We are not forcing Wyndham in. It's the State Board of Education that's forcing Wyndham in, and we have to vote whether we accept them or not. We're not doing the forcing. This is the state doing the forcing,
But
and
you're
we
not
are doing.
required.
Would you let me finish?
Yes.
Thank you. We are not doing the forcing. The State Board of Education is the one that wrote the order and gave us the option to accept. That's why the language is written the way the language is whether we accept them. So if this district accepts them, then the state is the one that is doing the forced merger. That is not this board. And yes, there are people that have very strong opinions, one way or another, on this board. As a board, we've tried to put out facts about what is and what is not the outcome of these votes. And I think it's very important, and since I have the floor, I'm going to take the opportunity to put the facts out. The facts are, if this vote passes, the Wyndham School Board will cease their operational responsibility on July 1st, but may stay in function until December to finish unfinished business. Wyndham is already part of this merged district, 7 through 12. It would bring Wyndham into this district pre-K through 12. So they're not being forced into a district they're not in, they were just being forced merged into a district that they are already part of for full membership. If this vote is yes, then Wyndham students will have the same educational opportunities as students in Townsend, Jamaica, Newfane, and Brookline. And they can exercise school choice if the parents want to send them to one of the other district elementary schools. Not school choice anywhere, school choice within a district. It also opens up under our school choice policy, Wyndham as a destination school for students that are coming from Jamaica, Townsend, Newfane, or Brookline. Currently, Wyndham offers the minimum amount of preschool education, which is paid for by the state. If this vote is yes, Wyndham parents and students would have access to full-day public preschool.
Only at existing
At
programs.
the existing
in the
programs
public schools.
in our district.
Okay.
Tax rates in Wyndham would drop by 30 cents. Tax rates in Jamaica and in Townsend would increase by 1 cent. And again, this is the first year because we don't have a crystal ball. There's no tax impact on this vote for Newfane or Brookline for this year. If the school was to be closed, and everyone's like, oh, you're trying to close the school. That is not the board's intention, and the board cannot do that. It takes a vote of the Wyndham taxpayers to close the school. The Articles of Agreement also state that should the Wyndham school taxpayers close the school, then that school is sold back to the town for them to use for public purposes. That's what happens if this is a yes vote. If this is a no vote, then we move forward with a second vote, which Wyndham has requested to let them leave this district 7 through 12. And that vote, do we have a date yet? I don't know if we even have a date.
July 16th.
July 16th is when that vote will happen. If that vote is yes and Wyndham is allowed to leave this district 7 through 12, then Wyndham would be leaving the Leon and Gray district, so their middle school and high school students would not be coming. Wyndham would be responsible to pay their share of the outstanding debt that the school district has, which is about $50,000. The 7th through 12th graders could get school choice or could have high school designation at the option of the local school board. It's likely that Jamaica, Newfane, Brookline, and Townsend residents would see about a 6-cent increase in their tax rate based on Wyndham exiting Leland and Gray. So there is a cost to taxpayers. I don't know what the cost is. We didn't have estimates for the cost of to Wyndham taxpayers because they'd have to make some choices. If we vote no, and that vote, by the way, is by town, all 4 towns individually would have to vote in the affirmative to let them leave. If they're not let out of Leland and Gray, then Wyndham will still remain part of this district for grades 7 through 12, but will remain independent for pre-K through 6. Some of the things that will happen is the middle school students, since middle school now in this district starts at 6th grade, they come here 6 through 12, so the middle school students would start a year later. They'd be starting here in 7th grade. This board would have to continue separating our elementary school and high school budgets. And then at the elementary school level, there are options. Wyndham School Board has the authority to close their school now. They could keep the school open, they could close the school. That would be up to the Wyndham School Board if that vote was to move forward in that direction. If the school is closed, there may be elementary school choice to the greater area or anywhere else they want if they close their school under that scenario. Those are the facts that we've gathered that the public should be aware of. Whether you use that information to support a yes or use that information to support a no vote, that's up to the individual taxpayer. But those are the actual facts of what would happen if these votes took place. Thank you. I will stop now, Joe.
Okay. You way in the back there on the end.
Oh, me?
Yes. I can see like this much of your head over the computer
Yeah, I know,
monitor
we
where
kind
you're
of
sitting
have
there. I'm
some
like,
Yeah, I get
thing
lost.
going on here. I guess I have to agree with Kathy in that there's some agenda here because you're saying you're having this vote because you want to hear from the public and what the public feels. But yet, when you did hear from the public about the 6th grade thing, you didn't want to carry on with that. And I just feel like it undermines the trustworthiness I feel towards you guys, and I don't really believe you have any credibility now. I just feel like your inconsistency has really marred any kind of effectiveness you have in my eyes. So it's hard to believe and go along with anything you want.
you had your hand up and we'll go out.
So, you know, what Drew said is factually true, and then Joe touched on it earlier, but we talked about at several meetings how this board could always warn to change the Articles of Agreement on that school closing clause, and then it would be a vote of the towns. So that pits big town against little town. It would be all 5 towns who would be voting on whether or not to close another town school. The other thing is by the 6th grade move, impacts Wyndham dramatically. They have, right now, I think this year, correct me if I'm wrong, Carolyn, they have about 17 kids, and they approved about $450,000 budget for next year. What happens next year if the 6th grade moves? Don't you go down to like 7 kids? So you can make a school not viable through board policies. And
Okay, I think I'm trying to go in order here. I think it was Sally and Crystal and Cliff and this gentleman. So
I just wanted to say what Mike said basically, which was a fact is that if the vote is yes and Wyndham has to merge and the 6th graders go down here, we will have between 7 and 10 kids in the school next year, and we have contracts for 2 teachers, and we have a budget. That's a fact that I think is important for people to know as well. I think that what will happen is that it will make the school a lot less viable if the school has to become part of the district, because the school will lose all those students in one big chunk, and that makes a big difference when you're in Wyndham, the school.
Crystal.
Hi, I'm Crystal Corbeil. I'm from Wyndham, Vermont. I have 3 kids. I have a child going into 6th grade. I have a child going into kindergarten, a child going into pre-K. For my pre-K child, because Wyndham only pays 10 hours of the pre-K, it costs me $3,500 a year to send him to pre-K. If we merged, that would be eligible to us. My grandson currently is doing pre-K at Townsend. Loves Mr. Roach. Every day, I'm going to see my best friend, Mr. Roach. He gives me a hug. I love him. My daughter, who did Step Up Day, and I would encourage you all to see what's happening here next year. Amazing things are happening. My daughter, 2 other students from Wyndham, they want to come here for 6th grade. It's not fair to rob them of the opportunities that are going to be here next year, because moving students will make a school not viable. Wyndham School does not have a lunch program. They provide lunch 2 days a week. At these schools, they would get 2 free meals a day. That would be breakfast, snack, or lunch, whichever you choose. I'm not saying Wyndham's a horrible school, because it's not. The staff is wonderful, but they cannot give the things that we could get down here, and it's not fair to the kids who, everybody's talking about democracy. These kids aren't old enough to vote. So it's not fair to rob them of a better opportunity to keep a school viable.
Cliff, you were next.
Yeah, I'd just like some help in understanding some of the tax implication numbers. I watched some of the videos of your other meetings, and in one of them, Drew, you said that if Wyndham's accepted, the tax rate goes up a penny for Townsend, Jamaica, and that was like $30 per $200,000 valued house. And then you went on to say that if the vote is no, and then Wyndham pulls out of Leland and Gray also, then the tax implication is an additional $600 for a $200,000 house. Was that a misspoken number? Because that seems it's 20 times more.
So the projected 30-cent reduction in the Wyndham rate, if Wyndham votes yes, then the Wyndham tax rate next year will drop by 30 cents.
Right.
That is $600 for a $200,000 house, plus or minus. If you move forward with the kind of projecting what happens if this vote fails and Wyndham is let out of Leland and Gray, then the number that we'd be looking at is about 6 cents. That number is a projection of what percentage of those students would be tuitioned back in that was provided to us by the SU. So 6 cents would be about $100 increase. I'm sorry, $120 increase, sorry, for the remaining district members.
Okay, that's
So-
a different number than you gave in the other meeting, but you might
So I may have had my 600 in the wrong place, I'm
You
sorry.
might have, but I still wonder, okay, so Wyndham's accepted, we bring in 17 kids into the district. It costs us an additional $450,000 into our budget. It doesn't affect Brookline or Newfane at all, which seems amazing. And it only affects us a penny, so that's $30 on a $200,000 house. How is it 6 cents to lose 8 kids out of Leland and Gray if it's a no vote and then they pull out of Leland and Gray? Because 8 kids times the cost per pupil in Leland and Gray of $22,389 or whatever it is like $179,000. So how does it go up 6 times more to have less than half of the budgetary impact of accepting them and bringing $450 into our budget?
Can we defer that to our expert?
So let me break
Yeah.
it down and clarify a little bit more so that I can understand exactly what you're asking. So if the vote is that Wyndham is voted all in, right? We've discussed that, that's a penny
Right.
on the tax rate for Townsend. Newfane and Brookline are not affected.
Right.
And that I'll get to in a minute, because that's because of a 5% provision that is in place. Okay. If Wyndham is not accepted in, the vote is no. And they also are voted out of 7 through 12, right?
Right.
And that's where you're going, right, with
Yeah.
this, okay? So then we have to make some assumptions, because the 6th graders potentially could be coming to, or 7 through 12, sorry, could be coming to Leland and Gray, and they would pay tuition. So your offsetting revenue goes up. Okay, so you're not bringing in the $450,000 budget.
Right.
At that point, so the budget stays the same, and you're losing some equalized pupils.
But what I heard was you're losing 8.
No, if Wyndham is all out, you're
Yeah.
losing 18.03 primary and 8.83 secondary.
All right, well, okay, this is what I'm getting at. We're already assuming they don't go into the elementary, right? So we don't get the 450, we don't get their 17 kids. The additional that I'm talking about, because the 450 coming into our budget, we already know affects us 1 penny. But how does them not coming in on the elementary level, plus losing 8 kids out of the 7 through 12 group, impact us 6 times more? Because you're only losing 8 kids, and even 8 kids times the cost per pupil at Leland and Gray only adds up to about $179,000.
You're losing more than 8 kids.
He's talking 7 through 12.
Just 7 through 12.
Okay.
I believe it's 8.8.
Right, but you're saying that you're losing the elementary as well. You're saying they're all out, right?
Right,
So-
and we already know that if we lose the elementary, our budget doesn't change from where it is now because we already have them factored out.
Right.
So the only additional change is the 7 through 12 piece. So whatever the weird number, 8.8 kids, we're not getting 8.8. Okay, so round them to 9
Right.
times Leland and Gray's cost per pupil of 22, what is it, 389 or 369, you're in that $190,000 range. So $190,000 that now has to be split between less students to pay for it, right? The budget doesn't change overall, but we have less people paying for it. $190,000 is not even half of $450,000. And we know by adding $450 into the budget, it only raised our taxes 1 cent. So how does reallocating $190 6 times that tax impact?
When you're adding the 450, you're also bringing in the 18 students, the elementary equalized pupils. Right, because now Wyndham's all in, right? So you've got.
Can I clarify? I think his point is that not only did the vote go no, so Wyndham is not part of the district, but in addition, the vote you somehow miraculously also, each individual town of the 4 also vote yes in the affirmative to allow Wyndham to leave. And that tax impact is supposed to be 6 cents. Am I screwing something up there? So there is no 450,000. That's still in Wyndham, not part of the district. I mean, not part of the pre-K through 12. So that's eliminated.
Okay, so.
So his point is, how is the impact of taking, if it's 9 students out of Leland and Gray, how is that a 6 cent increase for the remaining 4 towns
Doesn't make sense.
in terms of the tax impact?
So you're comparing year over year versus same year, same year. So the 6 cents is FY19 versus FY20. And the 1 cent is 2 variations of an FY20 budget.
It doesn't help me, but
Yeah.
maybe somebody else does understand.
We've got a budget set now. that's for FY '20.
11,720,000.
Right. And that doesn't have $450,000 of Wyndham's budget figured into it.
Right.
All right? So there's no change to the current tax implications of the current budget if Wyndham doesn't come into the district at the elementary level.
So there is a change to all the tax rates going from FY19, what you paid last year and paid this year.
You mean when?
What you paid this year and what you're going to pay next year.
What was on your tax bill? What was your tax rate?
Okay. You're saying from one year to the next, that's fine, but
There is a difference between them.
It's not just a penny.
then what are
Townsend's
we
not
talking
going a
about
penny
when-
last year to next
No,
year.
it's 14 cents for Townsend.
Right.
No, it's not less.
I think I may have something that would help clarify that you're leaving out of the equation, Cliff. You're not just losing those 8 students, you're also losing all the tax money coming in from the taxpayers of Wyndham to the budget that's already set. So you're reallocating who's paying what.
Would that be the state education tax?
Well, that's what I'm trying to understand.
I mean, that's the only thing I could figure when I heard that number is, okay, you got less people paying, but you got the same budget.
Give it a shot.
You want me to try one more time?
There you go.
Yeah, give it another shot.
Let me give it another shot. Okay, so let me do it sequentially. So right now, in the current reality, right? West River has a budget that is pre-K through 12, that has been voted on, and then Wyndham is only 7 through 12 in that, right?
Right.
The equalized pupils are 5.19, okay, 0.76, okay? And the tax, 519.76, yeah. And the tax rate is $1.86. That's the unified tax rate before it goes through your CLA, anything, that's
So
the
you're saying 519?
equalized
Yeah.
point, yeah,
For fiscal year 20.
for fiscal year 20, okay? The next scenario is if Wyndham pre-K through 12 and Wyndham's all in, okay? They're all voted in, okay? We add $450,000. We add some offsetting revenues also. And the equalized pupil goes up to 537.84. Okay, so you have an increase in your equalized pupil because now we're using all of Wyndham's pupils.
Right.
Pre-K through 12, right? We're good? We're tracking?
Right.
Okay.
And that's the point where you said
It's
It goes up.
$1.87. The unified tax rate is $1.87. And then it goes through your CLAs. Well, it goes through the 5% provision and then CLA. Okay?
that's where you said it went up a penny in Townsend and Jamaica. In that scenario.
Mhm. That's
They're
right.
all in.
Okay. Wyndham's all out. Okay? Pre-K through 12 all out.
Right?
Okay? I'm going to make an assumption in this scenario that 60% of the students come to some school. Okay? Of the, we'll just use the
Of
7
the
through 12.
17 kids?
Right. No, of the 7 through 12. This is the scenarios I did before when they were talking about the 7 through 12 thing. So let's just say 60% of those kids come. So they pay tuition to Leland and Gray, right?
Yeah, but 60% of Wyndham's kids is what you're talking about?
7 through 12.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. So the budget for West River is still 11,710, right?
Right.
Did I say that right?
11 million.
Well, 11
I knew
million,
what you
sorry.
meant.
I knew it didn't sound right in my head. The offsetting revenue is what it is, plus the tuition. The equalized pupil goes down to 510.93. Okay, now because you've lost all of the equalized pupils at that point.
How did we lose 27 versus?
Because you're losing all the equalized pupils pre-K through 12 for Wyndham if they're all out.
So 17 kids equals 27?
Well, that's 17 kids pre-K 6. And then you have the 7 through 12, which is the 8.83.
So 9, okay.
Okay?
And 17
that's
kids
25
actually
kids.
equals, because you got the pre-K too, that are 0.46 per kid.
Okay, so that's roughly around $1.90. So whatever, so it's not quite 6 cents, but that's basically what happens.
All right, so you lose like 26 kids. equalized pupils?
So it's all in the equalized pupil number is the issue. You know, your equalized pupil, you're losing all of those, that tax basis. Does that work? Okay.
So then,
Sequentially?
hold on, before I let you go.
Okay.
Just hold that thought 1 second. What's Leland and Gray's again? 22,389 or something like that, times 26 kids, so that's 582,114.
But an equalized pupil
Doesn't generate that. amount
doesn't
of money.
generate that.
That's what you pay, but it's based on the yield.
Right.
Explain that.
The legislature sets a yield every year. This year, I believe it's
548.
548. That raises, I don't know.
All right, so you all remember the 3-year comparisons that you get in your tax bill books, right? This is how you figure your tax rate. So you've got, if Wyndham were, now I did this earlier, so I have to dig it out to recalculate it, but if Wyndham were all in, okay? You get the 12,160,000 for the budget. Then you subtract your offsetting revenues. You take that number, divide it by the equalized pupils, and that's what you get your cost per student, right? But your yield is, in this case, it was back a few yields ago, 10,705, right? So what was your question?
So what I was saying is if we lose 26 kids and you multiply it times the cost per pupil in Leland and Gray, you end up with 582 and change, which isn't that much different than 450,000 additional budget from Wyndham being in. So how is it 6 times the tax impact?
Welcome to education funding formula. Their kids are not kids. They're numbers. They're percentages of kids.
But you're selling that.
No. And that's why I broke it down to a tax rate in my discussion, because trying to explain the education funding formula requires a lot. If we had a simple education funding formula where it was simply the cost of education paid for by the taxpayers, it'd be pretty straightforward, but that's not how this works.
There's also things that come out of that cost per student, like exclusions, there's the cap of the, cost per student.
So, I mean, I don't understand this yield piece, but if you just simply look at the cost per pupil at Leland and Gray times the number of students we're losing, and you look at that 582 figure, in order for it to be 6 times the tax implication, it would have to be 6 times $450,000. So, I mean, that's what, $2-point-something million. How is that possible?
Only 36. Right? I said $1.90, so you're talking $1.87 to $1.90.
So not 6 cents?
On this.
Now, it depends on the percentage of students that you assume
Exactly.
come in.
Right.
So an assumption of 60 versus an assumption of 20. And the assumption I used was 20 because that's what the projection was at 20%.
Hang on, I got a gentleman back there who's next. No, you in the green shirt. You've been waiting a long time. Are you done, Cliff?
He's still thinking.
I just don't understand how it's 6 times, but now I'm hearing 3 times, which is better, but still, I mean, that, if it's 3 times, it would be 3 times $450,000, which is $1.3 million. So,
It's not the way it's figured, and I'm happy to go over this with you.
Right. Okay, so you were next, and then I don't even remember.
I'm Cord Scott from Wyndham, and one thing I'd like to say, Drew, you were talking about facts, and one of the things I've heard a number of people from Townsend and Jamaica asking questions, and you can tell that they don't understand all this. So you laid out a whole bunch of scenarios, yes, no, and things that I know you feel are facts, and I appreciate that. I also think that you guys are in a tough position. The state's telling you to do something, whether you agree or disagree, maybe you feel like you have to do it. One of the things I'd like to point out to the people that are in the audience here is that Wyndham voted against this a long time ago. We said we do not want to merge. There was a vote. So in essence, no matter who said it or what the scenarios are, somebody is trying to force Wyndham to merge into this district, and they don't want to. And they've already voted. You guys don't like hypotheticals, so I hope you'll not shut me off with this, but what's occurring to me is that I know that there was a big controversy down here about a Dollar General being put in. How would you feel if all of a sudden Townsend didn't want the Dollar General, but the state said, well, we want, for economic development reasons, we want to put a Dollar General in every town, or we want to put a Walmart here. So you guys vote against it, but we're going to give the other towns in the surrounding area the chance to weigh in on that because, you know, Wyndham may want a Dollar General or a Walmart in Townsend. How would you feel? So that's how we feel when we've already said no, and they're trying to say, we're going to overturn your vote by calling another vote of a whole bunch of other people who may vote against you. And that's just plain wrong.
Actually, Carolyn, then way in the back of the plaid, then I think you had your hand up, and then we'll go back to you, Cliff.
I think one of the things that I object to, I'm Carolyn Partridge and I chair the Maine School Board. One of the things that I object to in this conversation is conflating the vote that's going to happen on Tuesday with some vote in the future. I think that bringing up numbers and the possibility of us leaving, I mean, I'm just going to say that I think that the chances are probably pretty slim that we're going to succeed in what we're referring to lovingly as the Wexit vote. But it causes a certain amount of fear on people's part. And, you know, we talk about money and how things are going to go up and what have you. I think what we need to focus on is the fact that we're having a vote on Tuesday, and Wyndham has said they do not want to be merged. We are in the middle of a lawsuit. And that's actually something I wanted to bring up additionally, but we've passed our budget for 2020 on a unanimous voice vote at town meeting. And there was a significant increase because of special ed costs. We have signed contracts with our teachers, and Sally is one of them. And we want to be able to honor that contract. We have a good program. We have a great program up at the elementary school, and part of it is thanks to Lee Marinoff, who does farm school, which gives the kids incredible opportunities to work on her farm. She also has a ceramics studio, and the kids get to participate in that and all sorts of other opportunities that they would not get if they were attending school down here. And I understand that we're not talking about closing schools, but if we are forced to merge and we lose the sixth graders, the 3 that are graduating this year, and the 6 or 7 that are going to be in 6th grade next year, that will devastate our school. And we have talked about, it's been suggested that we would only have 1.5 teachers, and because Mickey Parker Jennings, who we also adore, and who has taught at our school for 15 years, has his principal's license, he would probably be the one that stayed. And Sally Newton, who has worked for us for 25 years, would probably be transferred to another position at some other school. And we just think that that is unconscionable. It's wrong. And we would like another year to make smart decisions about our school, to honor the teachers' contracts, to see out what happens with this lawsuit, which, by the way, I talked to the lawyer today, and he said that the judge has ordered that the West River Mud respond in writing by tomorrow to the preliminary injunction and the motion for joinder. And that on Monday, there will be a hearing in St. Albans at 11:30. I will not be driving to St. Albans to hear that, but to address this. So I would sort of like to know if there's been any movement, or if you are going to respond to the judge and see where we're going to go from there. But I guess my final message to the people of this district, the Leland and Gray district, is that Wyndham does not want to be merged, and we ask you to vote no on both articles. Thank you.
back in the plat. Well, there's a couple things I want to mention. One thing
Can't hear you at all.
One thing is about taxes. And,
Just state your name, please.
My name is Amos Newton. I'm from, I live in Jamaica, although I live very much embedded in Wyndham. There's ongoing discussion about a minuscule amount of taxes. If we own property, we pay thousands of dollars of taxes. If your taxes go up $30 or $50 for education, I'm just saying that could be okay. Also, as far as opportunities go, Wyndham School has a lot of opportunities that don't happen down the valley, you know, and that should be all of our choice. And I am an advocate for absolute school choice, personally.
Cliff, I think it was you and Megan who were here.
Who was it? Me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I just wanted to say that I talked a lot about numbers before because I just need to understand these things, and I have a little better understanding, but I still have a few question marks in there. But what I wanted to say in closing is that I'm voting no on this because the numbers are one thing. Of course, I'm concerned about taxes. We pay plenty of them. But in an era where bullying is absolutely not tolerated, I think it's bullying Wyndham to have 3 or 4 larger towns vote against them. They voted clearly what they want to do, and that's what we should let them do. It's just not acceptable to be outnumbering people from sheer population standpoint. You know, maybe we want to have a good turnout and everybody in Wyndham shows up, but you know, you could be outnumbered if you have a decent turnout. But I just think because of everything that's going on, because of the legal lawsuit that's going on, we should have just stepped back from this and let the dust settle. And then we're here, you know, whenever Wyndham's ready or the state says you gotta take them, that's when we should have acted. Until then, we should have stayed on the sideline and did nothing. Sent a letter to the state and said, thank you very much for your input, but we know you're in a lawsuit and we're gonna wait till that settles out.
My name's Lee Marinoff. I'm in Wyndham. I'm really surprised because I thought this was all about what's good for the kids. I'm really shocked. I've been on school boards for at least 30 years. We teach all these kids in Wyndham before school. If I knew it was about after-school care, we would have put something together. We can put something together, and I really hope that we can take a year to try and do that. I think we have, if anyone comes up to Wyndham, you'll see we have one of the strongest schools anywhere, probably in the state, probably in the Northeast. I really think you should give us a year. I don't know how you get there. I really think we should figure this out. If you see what they do, and they're starting to ask children that are in college, what matters? And they say, it's attentive teachers, it's small schools, it's nurturing academics. We have all of that and much, much more. I don't know how we get there, but if we want this state to grow and bring in young families, we need to figure this out. I mean, honestly, this is all ridiculous. Is it 6 per times? Is it 1 time? We need to raise the very best children that we can in this state, okay? You guys, we have a responsibility. So let's get to it and let's figure this out. This is ridiculous. So I will put in the after-school daycare for your kids, for any kids that want to. We will solve any problems we need to, but let's figure it out together, okay? Thank you.
Did you have anything? Sorry, I'll be quick.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Carol
No, go
and
ahead.
this gentleman
I'm just trying to remember
answered
who was
several of my
next.
questions, but, I mean, I get it, a no vote's gonna be costly to some property owners, but what I'm hearing also is really a philosophical
No, it's not.
question. No?
That's
Well,
absolutely
there was something about a $50,000 debt and a,
The $50,000 debt is Wyndham's debt
Yeah.
to the existing district, and they would have to pay.
What I wanted to ask is, if these children, 17 children, come, and I love Leland and Gray, I've had involvement in Leland and Gray over the years, but the 17 children come here, are they bused with the other 7 or whatever that, to get over here from Wyndham? I mean, these are little children. And how do they actually get to Leland and Gray?
The 17 elementary schools children stay in Wyndham no matter what. They don't come here.
6th grade.
The only kids that come here that don't now are 6th grade kids. And they do come with.
If there's a yes vote, how many children from the Wyndham school will be coming to Leland and Gray that did not before?
Just the current 6th graders.
Those that would be entering 6th grade.
Oh, it's just one grade?
Right, it's just one grade.
And choice?
7 children?
And then the choice kids, so that would not be in grade necessarily.
Let's get the choice kids in there.
How many choice kids are there?
Are there?
I don't know.
Me either.
But what about them?
So yeah, it's just the one grade. What would be 6th grade would come here. The rest of the students remain in Wyndham School, just as they are now, unless they, we do have choice of elementary school within the West River district. So, if you live in Townsend, it doesn't matter what town you live in, you can choose to go to school in Townsend, Newfane, Jamaica, or if Wyndham was in Wyndham. And then, so students can move around that way. But that's at the discretion of their parents, not any
K through
boards.
5, they're not changed?
No.
Oh, okay. That wasn't clear.
Unless their parents choose to move them for some reason to go to another school, they're not changed at all.
But the 5th and 6th grade right now amounts to more than half of our
that's the
school.
Oh,
More than
okay.
half of our school right
see.
now
Yeah.
is in 5th and 6th
Look,
grade.
I'm with you. I lived in Switzerland. All over Switzerland, you have these little hill towns, and they have schools with 20 kids in them. And they're all different grades. They work very well, there's lots of ways of educating kids.
Thank you.
Okay, I think you're next, and then you, and then
Me?
Yes.
Okay. On the issue of busing, which the
My
gentleman...
name's Kathy, Joe.
I'm
You
Kathy
should know that
Scott.
by now.
On the issue of busing, which this gentleman touched on, you had step-up day yesterday, and we had 10 children from Wyndham, 7 5th graders and 3 6th graders who came down for step-up day. On the way back from step-up day, 2 of the children fell asleep on the bus, and 1 was disoriented. That's all I'm going to say. The one child was picked up at 5 minutes after 6 in the morning and got here at 7:30. That's 1 hour and 25 minutes each way, portal to portal. I don't think that's acceptable for any 10-year-old. And you created that situation with this nonsense. It's just and that's in good weather. Good weather. Yesterday wasn't even raining in the morning. If you have snow from November till in Wyndham, May, easily, sometimes late May, not going to be an hour and 25 minutes or an hour or 30 minutes if you're in South Wyndham. We have a very stretched out town. I don't understand what you're thinking about, and I brought this up at every informational meeting and many meetings before that, and they have not addressed the issue of bus transportation for Wyndham if we are voted in. Ask them. They have not. So that's one thing. The other thing is you mentioned an increase in the budget for school buildings that needed maintenance and repair that had been let go. I've heard numbers of 350,000, and I've heard numbers of 250,000. I don't know what the number is, but I would like to know exactly what facilities at what schools are targeted for rehabilitation, maintenance, and improvements in this budget. What school?
We're not, what budget are you talking about?
The one that's on the table.
The Wyndham budget?
Nope, not the
That's the
Wyndham.
one that's on the table. Our budget's on the
Our
table.
budget's passed and done and.
But what schools are targeted for that 4-point whatever increase that you said was because of building maintenance? What building maintenance, where's it occurring?
For $350,000.
Yeah, where,
Yeah.
what buildings? High school buildings, Townsend
All of them.
buildings? Well, which ones? How much? How much at the high school? How much at Townsend? How much at
We don't have
Newbrook?
those figures ready.
You don't have them?
We don't have them in front of us.
Lori, do you have them?
No, I mean, it's all based on the capital assessments that were done. So,
Okay, I get it, it's based on the capital assessment, but it has to be, well, here's the list that we need, and here's what has been allocated towards that list for fiscal year '20. Am I nuts?
The most neglected projects that each district didn't do, that they can do, is what that money is supposed to go for.
But is that $100,000 at the high school, $50,000 at Townsend, $20,000, where's it going?
I actually don't know exactly where it's going myself, but I do know that each building in the district now had an audit done.
Mhm.
And I personally don't agree with everything that was in the audit. But,
Is that on public information?
I don't think anybody will. Yeah, it is, right,
Yeah,
Bill? Aren't they online?
Yeah, under the reports.
Under reports?
Under reports.
Yes.
On the MUD board?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And so there's, was it 1.7 million is the total?
The total of the 20 year?
Yeah.
Almost 6 million, I think.
Over 20 years, it's supposed to be like $6 million in repairs to keep everything up. Because they're going to, we just put a new heating system in 3 years ago. In Newbrook. So if the shelf life of that is 20 years, that's budgeted in for year 17, or, slotted in, that it should be, redone or whatever it needs to be done, whatever maintenance. And things that haven't been done in the different schools, I don't know if somebody needs a roof. I know Newbrook's roof is probably about 5-6 years old. So I can't speak, I know what needs to be done at Newbrook. I think the only thing that's like an emergency at Newbrook is the windows that we've been holding off on.
Okay.
And it's really not, the building's not gonna fall down, the kids are safe.
Okay.
So,
Other two pieces of financial information that I was given were that the implementation of moving the 6th grade from the various elementary schools to Leland and Gray had a sticker price for the initial setup of $170,000. Is that true or not true? No.
Well, no, because Bill said at one of the meetings, we'd have to hire 2 new teachers at a rough cost with benefits of about $85,000 a meeting. No teacher.
When you look at the pre-K through 12 staffing numbers,
no.
I mean, I don't look at it by slice. I look at it, if we employ 50 teachers and we're going to employ 50 teachers next year, there's no additional cost.
Yeah, but we didn't get rid of any 6th grade teachers, right, at all the others. So we still have the same staff we had, and none of them came here, so we're adding 2 teachers.
Through the mixing and matching of school choice, we were able to staff those positions without adding additional staff.
I heard something different.
we also had people that are retiring this year.
Yeah,
we didn't. And the last
the 170 is just our,
There's 2 teachers
it's our
with
budgeted
benefits,
use
right.
of 85.
No, right.
And the other piece was that the free lunch, which I think is wonderful, it has a sticker price of somewhere, because it's free for the kids, and I think that's great. It's not free for the taxpayers. And it has a sticker price of somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000. Is that true? 50?
50.
50.
50 is what is in the budget for provision.
That's it.
It's less than $100 a year for each student, and they will receive, if they want, breakfast and lunch every day.
I'm not complaining.
No, I'm just clarifying, so it's actually a really good deal, considering I know my granddaughter eats lunch up here and it's like $3.
I think it's just important I'm talking about the free lunch. I just think it's important for people to know what these things cost. And we're not getting a lot of that broken down information, at least not in Wyndham. I don't know if they're getting it down here, but we're not.
Okay, I think you were next, so yeah, you with your hand up, and then the back, and then back over here.
Hi, I'm Pete Newton from Wyndham, and we talk about what Wyndham would lose with the yes vote and what we would keep. with a no vote, and whether the school is actually closed. There's a tradition of, in spite of what the governor wants to do right now, and I mean, we actually have a tradition, God bless our school board members, of taking care of our own schools and writing our budgets and hiring our own teachers and designing our own programs for our elementary students. And one of the things we will lose, whether it's 46 cents, it's you lose control of your school. We'll have one member out of 11 to hiring our teachers, and you guys may all have the best intentions, but it's a little school up on the hill, and it's a long tradition of taking care of your community. And another thing I'd just like to point out is that I think that these towns, if you look at populations, I mean, we say a lot of people, one of the meetings up in Wyndham the other night, a gentleman from Wyndham was commenting that by 2050, everybody in Wyndham is going to be 96. And I mean, in other words, that our population is aging, and there's a projection that might happen. But there's also, this is a sweet spot in the world, and people are going to come here in the next 20 years. I would say buy real estate, and I would say keep your little school going, and it's going to be viable, and we're going to have people buying up the places that are for sale. And so I'm just saying that's part of what we're trying to keep in Wyndham is local control. And even though the state says it's inefficient and we have to consolidate, I think that I'm going to vote no. Thanks.
Well, that's one good thing. If everybody's going to be like 90-something, then there'll be a lot of open jobs, which will bring a lot of younger couples in that have children, so the school will repopulate. Right?
You mean like ambulances and care homes?
Well, no, I mean, well, you know.
Fire department.
All right, so way in the back now? Yeah.
Okay, I had a question. So you said that if the vote comes out yes, then other people in the Western Modified District will have a chance to send their children to Wyndham School if they choose to do that. Okay, not that anybody would bother bringing their kids up that hill in their own right mind. But the other question is there any way that people in Wyndham would be able to have the choice to send their kids to, say, Chester or Floodbrook? Because they live close to there?
Not unless, well, in 9 through 12, there's statewide high school choice. So public high school choice. So kids from that end of Wyndham can go to Green Mountain. Yes.
But not Chester, Andover, or not Floodbrook?
Correct. Correct.
At all?
No. No, to do that, your town would have to become a choice town, which would be your school would close and be withdrawn from. Yes. Yes, choice towns typically don't operate.
Pre-K through 6, if we close, and you said we could have, we could tuition our kids out for pre-K through 6. For 7 through 12, there already is a provision for public school, high school choice.
9 through 12.
9 through 9, yeah, that's true. That's a
But
bone
then, of
of
course,
contention.
that doesn't
in
apply
Wyndham.
to Jamaica.
High school choice is for all.
Yeah,
It does.
Jamaica, yeah, 9 through 12. The problem in Wyndham, actually, and I've spoken about this before, is that 7th and 8th graders are sort of compelled to come to Leland and Gray, even if they are choosing Green Mountain for their 9 through 12 years. And we have long felt that was, and actually the survey we did for our alternative governance structure proposal indicated that people really felt that was not good educationally, that the 7th and 8th graders who are going to go to Green Mountain should go there for for high school, should go there for 7th and 8th. So, but once again, I fear that we're conflating the two different issues of the vote that's going to happen on June 11th, which is to allow Wyndham to remain as it is now with its own school board, which would, be a no vote, or forcing us to merge, which we have voted against. The Wexit vote will be at some time in the future. If, you know, and again, as I say, I think that's going to be a really heavy lift. I don't foresee that that is going to pass. But who knows? You never know.
That'd be nice.
Crystal, I think you were next then.
Katie was next.
Oh, I
and then
thought
me.
you were next and then Katie. Either way.
Katie Hazelton from Jamaica. I just had a clarification question on the bus or the transportation issue that all the Wyndham residents keep bringing up. Wouldn't it be that way the year after anyway? That we have the long bus route?
Yes.
For an 11-year-old at that point?
The 12-year-old by then, but yeah.
10-year-old this, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless those children, because they live at the north end of town, choose to go Green Mountain, which some of them do.
Right.
Because it is much closer.
Not in 7th grade though.
Yeah, they figure it out.
Oh, okay.
They figure out how to go.
Okay.
I know nothing about how they do it, but they figure it out.
So they're not coming to town tonight?
That's that Crystal.
So I just want to touch base on something. You know, if we had school choice, people could choice in, people could choice out. We currently don't have school choice. We have a Jamaica student who is allowed to choice in. So now you have Wyndham people who want to choice out, and everybody's saying, no, don't merge. But they want to choice people in. I've been told several times, the teachers approved this, we approved this, it didn't cost us a dime. Well, it cost you something because you have parents who are Wyndham residents who want to choice out, and you say no, but you're allowing Jamaica students who currently only have the choice of New Fane, Townsend, or Jamaica, you're allowing them to choice in.
I know, you want to defend that.
Well, it's not a matter of defense. I just want to respond to it and say that we understand as a board that there are parents for whom this would be very enticing. It brings up yet another subject which we've talked about before, which is, we're talking about equity or equitability or whatever, and yet Townsend is being turned into basically what I would call a Cadillac school with free all-day pre-K with after-school programs. And yet if we're talking about equity, you would think that that same sort of thing would be allowed up in Wyndham. We passed our budget, as I said earlier, we passed on a voice vote unanimously, a budget that did not include tuition for the kids to go to the junior high.
But it didn't include other kids from other towns.
But they are not costing us any money.
They didn't cost you money, but they cost you
How does one person coming in
something.
not cost more?
Because we have the teachers that are necessary to teach
But
that
they may
child.
not have
Can I ask
cost
a
you
question?
financially, but
Okay,
they
hang on. That should be
wanna be-
directed to me. This isn't a conversation in the audience, unless you
Yeah.
want to adjourn and go outside and,
Yeah.
you know.
No, but I want to be clear that the reason we cannot tuition those students to the high school for next year is because we didn't budget it in. We are responsible to the taxpayers of Wyndham, and that money, which would be $45,000 or so, was not factored into our budget.
Yep, go ahead. Next.
I'm Nathan Keel, I live in Wyndham. And I'm curious, I guess I want to ask the Wyndham School Board a couple questions. If you vote no, and I choose to remove my kids from the school program, as long with some other parents that choose to do so. So you've gotten your way, but all of a sudden the numbers are already down low, you're not viable, so you lose, and I lose, and everybody loses. Am I misunderstanding the number ratio here? So if you lose the 6th graders, like they're going,
Well, some of them.
the 3 of them, okay?
So we still got 4.
So if you lose the 3 that are going, okay, they graduate, and then 3 decide not to return to Wyndham, is Wyndham a viable school at this point?
Perhaps
Are they
not.
talking to you again, Joe?
I'm asking the school board member.
This is really, I mean, if you want to
Okay.
talk to the Wyndham School Board, you really should.
Sure, okay, well, let me ask you that question then.
Sure.
Sure.
Under our model, right now that we're proposing, if the vote was yes, and 3 additional kids in Wyndham decided to choice to Jamaica, or 4 kids, or 6 kids, we would still be running a program next year in Wyndham. The school would still be functioning next year in Wyndham with the same program that we are planning, regardless of the way the choice works out. The staffing is up to this, oh, he left, up to the superintendent to figure out. Good time, Bill, I was pointing right at you. The superintendent would figure out the staffing, but the school program would still be viable, and we would be challenging the superintendent to make sure the school program was still viable, regardless of how many students choiced in or choiced out. That's what we pay the administration to figure out, is the staff and the staff ratios.
I just don't understand that.
Okay.
Beth McDonald, I'm on the Wyndham School Board. I actually had a question for Emily, who hasn't spoken all night. You voted yes for this. I couldn't be at that meeting that was called on a Friday for a Monday. You voted yes, and I should preface that with, you've been on the school board for a really long time. I think like towards 20 years or so? More than that, and state rep, and we've worked together for about a decade. You voted yes for this, but you prefaced your yes vote by, I watched the video, you said that you didn't agree with it, but you were going to vote yes, and I'm just curious as to what that was, what that meant. On the May 6th, Brattleboro TV.
I didn't agree with it. I don't know what you heard. I didn't say I didn't agree with it. What I said when I can't remember exactly what I said that night, but I'll just explain to you my feelings around my yes vote, and that is simply that the state board had merged Wyndham into, had recommended merger of Wyndham into, in their state plan, into the West River District, and we were informed that if we were going to offer that vote to the voters in the 5 towns, which include Wyndham, Wyndham, Brookline, Newfane, Townsend, Jamaica, that needed to happen before July 1st. So we were confronted with that timeline. And so my reason for voting yes to have this vote was very simply because this vote has an impact not just on the town of Wyndham, but it also has an impact on all of the towns. Just like the Union School District law, which will require a vote of all the communities to allow any school out of the district. This would also require all of the towns to vote to allow them in. So there is an impact. I felt that it was really important that the towns had a voice. I thought it was an obligation that the towns had a voice because it was going to impact every one of them. We talk about public school choice, and we never talk about what public school choice really is. Well, public school choice, money doesn't follow students. So when students move from any community that has public school into another community, ADM stays with the town. So that actually has, if we lose students through tuition because a town exits, or if Leland, I know Carolyn doesn't want to conflate it, but it's the truth. If Wyndham does move forward and votes to ask to vote out, I guess the date has been set, July 16th, to leave Leland, that will have an impact on the 5 towns. That's why everyone gets to vote. That law has been in place since the 60s, or longer maybe, I don't know. So I just felt like everyone needed to have a voice. I have not taken a stand on this one way or the other because I don't believe my thoughts on, some people have been very vocal about this. I'm not very vocal about it. because I don't believe it's my decision to make. I believe it's the 5 communities that are impacted by this. I believe it's their decision to make. So that was my reason. I wanted everyone to have the opportunity to vote. That was it. Yeah.
Respect that. And I just want to say there are some people that don't want to stay in the school system, but there's many of us that have moved into town because of the school, because of Sally Newton, who's by far the most magical teacher I've ever known. So there, and we do have, we talk about being fair, we do have students that do want to stay, and I don't think it's fair to them to make this decision for them, or to allow these other towns to make this decision for them.
I only see one, but he was ahead of him. Oh, sir, you already spoke. You go ahead.
I just was, when you, Emily, I just wanted to be clear, though the state recommended, they did not require that you have this vote. So, I just want to know, why do you feel that it has, if you chose to do nothing and the town of Wyndham remained at grade school level, separate from the MUD, how does that impact everybody else in the other 4 towns? I'm just...
I think that's up to everyone to understand. That's all I'm saying. I think that everyone needed to look at what the implications were on both sides of this issue, whether you agree with it or whether you don't agree with it, and then make the decision. So the impacts are laid out in front of us, and I'm not suggesting that it's right or it's wrong. I'm just saying that I thought that there was an obligation to put this forward because Act 46 did allow this process to complete in the end, and that's what the Act 46 allowed for a final statewide plan. And the final statewide plan did recommend all of the modified districts were merged, not just this one, but all of them. I think there were 4 or 5.
So one follow-up question then. I'm just curious to know, what is the status of Wardsboro then in
Marlboro?
Why is... I'm curious to know why that did not require that they be merged or that Marlboro be merged.
It merged. Well, Wardsboro and Dover merged, so they operated they went in a different direction. And Marlboro had a separate, Marlboro is part of a 2x2x1, which was part of Act 49. So we're one of the two or more districts. Dover and Wardsboro are the other district, and Marlboro, if you look at Act 49, that allowed for either 3 districts or more, and 1, or and it had to be approved by the state board, and the state board did approve Marlboro's separate place as a single district because of their geographic isolation.
Because of their what?
Geographic isolation, and I don't know what other reasons. I think, Bill, you could answer.
Because they're the only K-8 district.
And it was also the operating
They're the only
structure.
K-8 school within the supervisor.
And nothing to do with being.
Back, one more comment. Amos Newton here.
Can't hear you.
Amos Newton here, from Western Newton, whatever we call our place out there in the middle of nowhere.
Newtonville.
I just want to question, how is this a democratic process when the town with the fewest voters is all of a sudden being put in the same poll as 5 towns with many, many, many more people? And I don't understand why it got put to that. I really don't. Can anybody explain that to me?
They call that a loophole.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
Yeah, well, it's a law. It's a loophole in the law.
It was the state board's
We can't get you to say yes to merge.
They're not elected, are they?
No, they're not.
No. They're appointed.
Yes.
Well, come on.
Is there a hand in the back there? Yeah, okay, go ahead.
A couple things. One is, I believe that the goal of Act 46 was to save money with education because the costs are going up and student population is going down. And so I think the goal is to consolidate districts, which will consolidate schools so that you can have larger schools with larger classes, larger class sizes. I would say that one of the reasons why Vermont has such good schools is because that we have small classes and the kids get a lot of individual attention. And I also believe that, I know that I asked the question about, well, what happens when Jamaica closes, which Jamaica's population has already been cut in half. And if Wyndham closes, then what happens to class size in Townsend and Newfane? And I know I was told that those schools were built to hold a lot more kids than they are. But I also was told that the Wyndham School was built to hold 50 students. And I know that 50 students would be a lot more than than would be a good environment for students to learn. So I don't know what the condition is in those other schools, but I do know that I think the goal here is to get larger class sizes. And I don't know how people feel about, in Townsend and Newfane, about those class sizes. And the other thing that I want to say is that my sister-in-law works in the school system in Bath, Maine. And they did this, they consolidated. And now they're going back the other way because they found that it was not as effective as they thought. She works in a school that's now its own district again. So I think we're rushing into all this without really understanding how it's going to impact students, how it's going to impact communities. And I really feel like we need to slow down, take a look around, and think twice before we force this on, particularly, I mean, Wyndham is standing up for what they believe is really the best thing. And maybe not everybody in Wyndham agrees, but the majority of the people there voted to do this. And I just feel that that needs to be respected, that Wyndham shouldn't be thought of as being, you know, a rogue, because they're standing up for what they feel is right and what they feel is the best thing. And I'm not sure that the big picture, the state, I'm not sure they really know what the best thing is. And they're trying to force that on us in a one-size-fits-all, rather than looking at, okay, this is working well in this place. Maybe there's some schools that would do best to consolidate. But why we're being forced and why you are supporting that, I don't understand.
So I just want to clarify about Act 46. So it wasn't written to change class sizes, to consolidate schools and close schools. It wasn't even driven by money. It was simply a long time, a response to a long time decline in enrollment that had been happening for quite a number of years in the state of Vermont. And coincidentally with the enrollment declining, schools were having to cut programming over and over and over again. We did it here. We fought against cutting programs for many, many years, and our costs did go up because we didn't believe in cutting our programs. But we've had to cut our programs at Leland and Gray. Schools all over the state have cut programs. Schools were in danger of closing. I feel just as strongly as you do about small schools and the need for them and the need for small schools in our communities. I don't see Act 46 as closing schools. Some schools may close under Act 46, but when you want to talk about class sizes, I fought tooth and nail to make sure that the governor did not get to state class sizes or any kind of student-teacher ratios, which he did try to do last year, tried to push forward. He had a proposal on student-teacher ratios. I don't believe that's a decision that the state should be making, and I fought against that. I don't see this as trying to increase class sizes ever. We've never even had that conversation here at all on this board or anything to do with the merger. We do value our small schools in our communities, and I see this as an opportunity for schools to actually stay open and not have to close, and that's how I've always felt about
How can this. we see an opportunity for schools to stay open if by us being forced to merge, we have to close because we have too few students? I don't understand.
My goal is to make sure that Wyndham doesn't have to close.
Oh, please.
And how will you do that, if I may ask?
We're just going to have to try to make sure Wyndham has a school that has the programming that is attractive and will keep kids coming to Wyndham. Just like we do with every single one of our other schools. We're doing the exact same thing in every one of the schools. In Jamaica, Jamaica's had a serious decline in their enrollment. All of our schools have had a serious decline in enrollment. We talk all the time, and we've got our values up here about how can we increase program to make our schools in our communities the strongest they can be so that families want to move to our communities. That's what we're trying to do.
And you started that effort, if I may say so, by taking all the 6th grades and moving them to one spot. How is that helping the individual schools? How is that?
Well, I don't want to relive the whole program, the whole process that we went through, but every single one of the principals in those schools actually came here and spoke to us and said they think this is the best program that we could possibly do for their kids, and they all supported it.
And at the meeting in Wyndham, one of the 6th grade
I'm talking
teachers
about the 4
spoke up and talked to you about how that made sense in the Common Core.
Okay, yeah, I know they did the other day.
It's an educational decision that was, brought to
But
us, not our idea, brought to us by the administrators and the education
So the
experts that we have.
said this was a good thing.
Yeah.
There were 198 parents.
The principals did not bring this to the board.
The principals all
The
supported it.
principals support. Well, if I was a principal and my superintendent said, what do you guys think about this? I'm not going to say it's a bad idea.
Oh, that's different. So that's
so,
very different. I
but,
agree.
and that's my opinion of it. I don't believe that the principals of all 3 schools got together and said, we're just not doing right by our 6th graders. But we had them all up to Leland and Gray, and they would have a better education. Because when this whole thing started, we weren't supposed to have a cookie cutter education.
Okay.
Okay? Now, our 6th graders were learning in 3 different schools the same Common Core. Just because they're learning the same material does not mean they have to learn it in the same room at the same time. Let's make no mistake about that.
I'm not.
Okay? Different teachers have different teaching styles. Different children have different learning styles. So, they're all going to have a cookie cutter 6th grade education now because they're all going to be taught by the same teacher who only teaches one way. Okay? That's my personal opinion. You can, but that's what that is. As far as this whole thing that's going on right now, I would like to apologize to everybody, every town, because this board has not taken over yet officially until July 1st. And when it does, I hope it has learned lessons from the few things that we've done already that we've done in haste. Well, the petition thing, they didn't ask to, no, don't do it. They asked to revisit it, look at it, and give us more information.
I would like to correct that. And
Okay.
if I may. First of all, I'd like to I'm sorry, I would, I'm here.
We had the conversation earlier about how this is all really supposed to flow
But,
through.
wait,
and
no,
be
no,
me,
no,
and
can I finish
Ken's gonna
this?
take
This
the
is
chair
what I'm
now
telling
and-
you. This is what I'm sorry for.
Let me talk.
She asked to
Okay.
answer that question, and I let her answer it, and Ken's just going. But I want to remind you that this is warranted until 8:30, and so we're going to need to wrap this up. We do have an executive session.
I'd like to finish my question though. And do
You
the
can
math.
certainly finish your
Good.
question.
The superintendent is one person. 3 principals make 4 people who leave you with the impression that moving to 6th grade is a good thing. Gotcha. Is the math right?
Yep.
Superintendent recommends, principals support. Let's go with that. 198 people voters signed a petition saying, and they did not know when they came in with that petition. You asked them, actually Drew asked them, Drew said, are you asking for a revote or a reconsideration? They didn't know. They wanted a change, and you led them down a path and made the motion, and then said, good, now I'm going to vote against my own motion. I was here. Am I lying about that?
You're not.
Okay. Does that seem like democracy to any of you? Any of you?
Keep in mind, and again, I like the way that you twist things for me.
Good.
And I'm going to answer this because you like to twist things. That was after 2.5 months of discussion, of information from not just principals and superintendents, but special educators and all of the educational leadership within this district. So this board had considered for many, many meetings that discussion. So we had considered this. We considered it multiple times. There are board members that wanted to keep considering it, but that was not the desire of the board. And yes, I did suggest that we should not take this question up again, because as a board, we can't reconsider every vote that we make at the following meeting. After several months of thoughtful consideration, you chase your tail a lot of times, like around in circles, is that what you do? I can tell. You know, this board took months of thoughtful consideration and made a decision. And that decision is in the best interest of the education of the 6th grade. I believe that. I stick by that decision. And I think the majority of the board still sticks by that decision.
So say 11 people, 1 superintendent, and 4 principals versus 198 voters.
We elected them.
They don't get the same consideration that these towns are getting to vote, to revote the question. They did not get that consideration. And you could have given it to them, even if it was informational, you could have, but you didn't. You didn't have to give the voters this one. There's another town, another group that's not giving a vote. Not giving a vote. One group is handled one way, another group's handled another way. No answer? Okay, fair enough.
So are there any last questions?
One comment.
Sure.
Court Scott again. Bill, this is a little bit towards you too. You guys are going into executive session. I know you're talking about legal issues. And we probably are not, obviously we're not having any more informational meetings, but I've dealt with a lot of attorneys in my life, and the idea that, you know, you use the cop-out that you're doing something like accepting the language of a ballot because an attorney said so, that's nothing but a cop-out. You can say to the attorney, you work for me, I don't like this language, I think it's prejudicial, we should change it. So when you talk tonight, please keep that in mind. If you want the thing to go the way it goes, fine, but on the other hand, if you disagree, or even if you agree with the opposition's position about the injunction, then tell your attorney that. He works for you, he can back off.
Some of the board members here actually made a motion to change the wording, and we're outvoted.
Right, I remember.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying, and this is what I apologize for, because this was such a hurry thing. We gotta do this by, Friday meeting, gotta do it by Monday, okay? If we don't do it by Monday, well then it's not a, what's the word, not, an enforceable vote, okay? That we don't have to do it if we do it after July 1st. Okay, and the suggestion was to let Wyndham have another town vote and see if they want to come in first. Right? And that was one of the suggestions. And it was like, no, the other taxpayers have a right. And it was, some of us believe that it's unconstitutional to do this vote. And, but the lawyers said it was okay. And the lawyers say to accept. And common sense tells you if I'm going to accept something, it must have been offered to me. Okay? If something is not offered to me and I take it, I'm stealing. Okay? Or I'm forcibly taking. So it's wrong. And it was brought up that way, and nobody wanted it. It was brought up, well, it could be vetted through the attorney, and no, we don't want to do that.
And that's the point, if you tell the attorney.
You're absolutely right.
Actually, just to clarify the language just a little bit, the state board said Wyndham has to merge into us. They directed that merger. The acceptance is not that and it gave us the right to the West River District to accept that decision that they've made or refuse that decision. That's the accept part. Wyndham didn't ask, the state board told. And then we can say, no, sorry, we don't want them, or yes, we'll take them. that's where the acceptance comes from. It's not, you know, anyone who's saying that you've asked and we're accepting you is wrong. I mean, that's pretty clear. But that's where the word accept comes from, because Wyndham has been recommended in this plan, and we have a right to either take you or not take you.
About that too, but my only point was, I've heard a number of times, again, these info meetings are almost over, so it doesn't make any difference, but I just have to say, I've heard a number of times that, well, the attorney said this, and that's why we made this decision. And I'm just reiterating again that that's just an excuse. All you have to do is say to the attorney, no. If that was the attorney that said you have to go by the state board's rule, you can say, no, we don't.
Well, it just establishes, regardless of what the attorney said, they made a decision. You have to accept. So they made the decision, the attorney did not make the decision.
There we go. That's not what they said.
Well, that's what I just said here.
Okay.
They voted, they decided to keep the word accept. The attorney didn't force it on them.
Right. Okay.
But they used it anyway.
Yes, they chose to. The attorney didn't focus on it.
Go ahead, sir.
Chris Robbins from Jamaica. Did the state give you a drop dead date for when Wyndham has to merge?
Yes, June. If the vote's not held prior to June 30th, it has no effect.
So they have to merge after?
Depending whether the results of the vote have to be out there before June 30th, either yes or no, for it to be effective. If there was no vote and that date just passed by, then there would be no merger. Unless Wyndham then came and asked later, and then we would have to have the vote.
Which was the premise of the other, hold the vote off and let them have a chance.
And it didn't have to be a vote of the other.
Right. It didn't have to be.
It would always have to have been a vote of everyone.
Actually, the state.
Let's stop. Ask the question again, please.
You were not required to want to vote.
Correct.
That's what I'm asking. I just want to make sure this gentleman knew that you were not required to want to vote.
No, we were not. We've said that repeatedly.
And that choice had consequences.
Last word?
I'm just curious as to why, if the state was going to force us to merge, and obviously probably would have forced everybody else to merge, then why did they have us vote in the first place? I mean, it seems like this is a whole charade then. And they're pitting people in towns against each other. I think you should respond to them saying, what's the point of all this? If you're going to force us all to merge, then why are they making you do their dirty work? Why are they causing all this struggle? I mean, I see it in the kids at school right now. I see how stressed out they are because of what's going on. And I see it in the community. It's really not right. And I wish you'd stand up to them a little bit more instead of passing it on to us. And it just doesn't seem right to me.
There are 3 legislators in the room, so I'm sure they're listening.
Pardon me? I can tell you why.
There are 3 legislators in the room.
I can tell you why there was a vote. There was a vote because the hope was that people would say, yes, and people were threatened, and there was fear involved. If we don't do it, they're going to do it to us. And with a yes vote, you agreed to sell your school to the mud for $1. And that is one of the points of our lawsuit, that we object to this, that it's unconstitutional to take property from a person, in this case the Wyndham School District, without an affirmative vote of the people and fair compensation. That's why they had you vote. We voted no. Please vote no on Tuesday.
Or today. You vote no anytime.
Yeah, you can vote no, you can go vote no tomorrow.
I'll make it.
Okay, Deirdre.
And I'm sorry, it may have been asked, I was across the street at the concert, so I missed the first half of the meeting. I have watched the Jamaica board meeting. I wasn't able to go up to Wyndham, but I'm really kind of judging my vote, and so maybe, I don't really know. Mrs. Corview spoke. I'd really like to hear from parents, because that's, to me, it's about the kids. So I don't know how many families are in your school.
Well, you should have come to the Wyndham vote.
Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't
The Wyndham meeting is actually televised. It's available now on
Okay, I was
BCTV, so you
going to
can
watch
watch
it
that.
as soon as it is available. but
It's available today.
Okay. So if there's parents here, do you want this or do you not want this?
Want it.
She wants it, other people don't.
See how
I
many
mean,
people show up.
you've met Jackson,
Yeah.
you've seen Jackson interact with Mr. Roach. I want that for him.
We have a 10-year-old that wants to come to sixth grade here. She's asked to come, and that's what we're trying to do.
And you guys are close to the southern border.
Okay, so anything else from the members of the public?
Thank you for holding all these meetings, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
We should all
You're
work
welcome.
together.
I agree.
Motion to move to executive session.
I'm sorry?
Motion to move into executive session.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to move into executive session. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, opposed? All right, we're in. Bill, there's nothing after, is there?
There will need be no action.
No, there's no action.